Matt Campbell will be the new head coach of the Penn State Nittany Lions in 2026. I can now officially say that. Penn State has hired Matt Campbell to an 8-year deal. It is an 8-year deal, from what I'm hearing so far. I don't know the number details, but it is for 8 years, so pretty long term. Thank God Pat Kraft finally went out, hired a straight up dude. You got a good head coach here. To wait this long in the process, to sit there and swing and miss on all the home run hires that you went after, and you still end up with Matt Campbell, when much of your fan base and even boosters and others inside of the program thought that all hope was gone, this is a slam dunk in my eyes. In my personal opinion, this is a big slam dunk to still go out there and get a guy like Matt Campbell. Penn State fans, you can finally sit back, you can take a deep breath because you finally have your guy. You don't have to worry about this anymore. Straight to the roster building now, which is going to be a lot, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So, Matt Campbell, in my opinion, he's also a better fit for Penn State than a lot of these other home run hires that Penn State was out to get, like Kalani Sitake, Lincoln Riley was thrown around. Maybe not Kalen DeBoer. I think Kalen DeBoer does fit the Big Ten mold for or I think he fits the mold for a Northern Big Ten team because I know all I could think about is really his tenure at Washington, even though Washington, yeah, that Washington wasn't in the Big Ten when DeBoer was there. I believe they were still Pac-12 at that time. But um, what were the odds that Alabama was ever going to move on from him anyway? I think they love him at Bama. I don't think that was happening. He came out and kind of shut down the rumors as well. So, yeah, we don't really know what was ever going on behind the scenes there, but it did seem like Pat Kraft was trying to hold out a little bit for him. As far as Matt Campbell goes, he's a culture guy, coaches gritty, coaches toughness, and in my opinion, that's what you need at Penn State because it's still going to be tough to recruit with the Ohio States and the Michigans and the Oregons of the Big Ten. The Big Ten powerhouses like that, but you know. That's something that he did very well at Iowa State was he would bring in the guys who obviously weren't the 5-star recruits and 4-star recruits, but he developed them into playing like 4 and 5-star recruits. We saw it with multiple people that he developed at Iowa State. At Penn State, you're probably going to get some of those 4-star recruits, maybe some fives, but probably a lot of fours. And I'm sure, yeah, um, like Matt Campbell, he's going to be working with more talent than he's ever had at Iowa State from the rip, in my opinion. You know, um, Especially if he comes in the first 2 years and you see a lot of promise there, and the boosters really get behind him, and the more money starts flowing in for him to use on the rosters and more elite personnel. You know, this It's also a spot where I think you can definitely try and retain Terry Smith, keep him on staff. I think that's a priority. This is step one for Matt Campbell, in my opinion, when he gets in, is find a way to keep Terry Smith in town and then hire elite personnel around you because, you know, those guys out there, especially on the offensive coordinator side on the market right now, it's a pretty big market for him. I think you can go out and get some good guys. Um, Terry, if you keep Terry Smith around, he's obviously going to help you recruit heavily that DMV area. He has Penn State ties. If you do keep Terry, you're probably going to be able to retain most of that roster. I don't think many people will transfer to Virginia Tech and follow Franklin if Terry Smith is retained. So I do think that is step one for Matt Campbell once he gets in the building. Make sure you can keep Terry Smith in there. You know, Campbell automatically after he puts pen to paper, you automatically have more brand power behind you at Penn State than you ever did at Iowa State. Um, Before Campbell got to Iowa State, it was consistent losing seasons for Iowa State. He went in there, and in my opinion, that's one of the toughest jobs in the Big 12, probably the toughest job in the Big 12, because there's just not much to work with there. And now you give him that brand power and the resources. I think you got something going here. Some players he's developed some good players at Iowa State. Guys like Brock Purdy being the most notable. Brees Hall. Everybody knows Brees Hall. Will McDonald, Jets first round pick edge rusher. Jaden Higgins, really good receiver last year. Now, I will say this. For Matt Campbell, it's gonna take some time. So you're gonna have to be patient. You're gonna have to be patient. Look at this 2026 recruiting class. It's already gutted from James Franklin. I mean, everybody transferred from Penn State to VT over there. Penn State only signed two guys during international signing period. So Matt Campbell's gonna have to come in and attack the transfer portal like he's never have before. And another thing there is he's gonna be able to because he's gonna have more resources than he's ever had. He's gonna be able to attack it and go out and get whoever he wants. Also, a big if Ethan Gruckmeyer is the quarterback for Penn State, Matt Campbell is very underrated at developing quarterbacks. You know, he's had Brock Purdy, Rocco Beck's been pretty good. Some other guys he's had has been pretty good over at Iowa State. I think Grunk has a very, I think his ceiling's very high, and we saw that this year. So if you can keep Ethan Grunkmeyer around, that's if you don't go grab a portal guy. In my opinion, I think Ethan has done enough to come in and be the quarterback when Matt Campbell gets here. And I think he has a high ceiling. I think he could be a very good player under a better coaching staff who is obviously better at developing quarterbacks than James Franklin was, in my opinion. But also, the recruiting and the transfer portal, him being able to transfer or attack the transfer portal pretty heavily, also goes with the personnel that he brings in because, you know, you're gonna have to find some good starting caliber guys for next season. Because looking at Penn State's schedule, there's a good chance that Matt Campbell comes straight in and he's pretty successful off the rip. You know, I'd expect at least 8 wins next year, if I'm being honest. Set the bar pretty, I mean, I guess fairly high for a first year head coach and a poached roster or poached roster. Um, yeah, set it to 8 wins and probably overachieve. You know, the schedule's pretty weak. Looking at it, it's very winnable. You have Michigan, you have USC, Washington as your premier games. They're all winnable for Penn State, in my opinion. Now, one question is, can he maximize Penn State like he maximized Iowa State? Because he went into Iowa State, he got the absolute most you'll probably ever get out of Iowa State. It's gonna be tough to get more than what Matt Campbell did out of that program. Because if he does that and he comes in and maximizes Penn State like he did at his other spots, he did it at Toledo as well. Talking like national championships. Like if you maximize Penn State, you're probably talking national championships. I think there's a pretty good I think there's a pretty good chance that he can come in there and do that. You know, James Franklin. Um, James Franklin nearly got them there. And, you know, I know this may be jumping the gun a little bit. And yeah, it is pure speculation, but you do have to think to yourself at times. If you were Penn State in that moment in that Notre Dame game when you pretty much had them beat, and then this is the James Franklin coach team last year, by the way. Um, to go to the national championship, you pretty much had them beat, and then you just crumble. If Matt Campbell is your coach at that time, being James Franklin has issues beating those top 10 teams, he just couldn't find a way to close those games or even be in those games. You know, if Matt Campbell's your coach at that time, you might have a pretty good shot at winning that football game and going to play for a national championship last year. Now, can he get them all the way there? I guess we'll see. Because I'm not saying this is for sure going to work. I'm saying I like this hire, and I'm saying that I think it's going to work, but I can't put any guarantees on it. I mean, I don't think anybody can put any guarantees on it. But anyway, one concern that I do have is can he recruit? Because he wasn't really asked to recruit much at Iowa State. You know, he's never been around high level recruiting. What what you're going to have to do at Penn State, although I did mention what Matt Campbell, he can develop guys. He can develop those smaller recruits. You you still want some of those big guys, obviously, because I think you're gonna have them, like some of those 4 and 5 stars, to compete with the Ohio States and Oregons, and even if Michigan can get the ball rolling again, and really all those other powerhouses that you're eventually gonna come up against or eventually facing the playoffs if you're there. You know, because most coaches that climb up in the rankings and find their way into a good head coaching job like Matt Campbell has, most of those guys have been in bigger programs in the past. So they see these head coaches in those bigger programs that they're coaching under, and they see how those guys recruit, and they can kind of take some pages out of their books. They can kind of learn some from them. Matt Campbell's never really been anywhere other than Toledo and Ohio St or Iowa State. So he has no background at these bigger programs. So that is a big question because, can you come in and recruit? You know, it has a lot to do with that. And maybe it's overreacting, but I think there's some stuff to do with that. Um, we saw Florida go out and hire a former NFL general manager to help John Summerall with that after they hired him to help more. I think that was more on the NIL side and to balance your resources more so you can build a deeper, more stacked roster with your budget that you're given. So I wouldn't be surprised if Pat Kraft did that for Matt Campbell and brought in a guy like that because he's obviously also never dealt with big NIL budgets. So you're gonna have to come in and manage these rosters and stuff with that budget that you're given. And I've heard that budget is gonna be pretty good. I've heard Pat Kraft wants to win. I will say that about Pat Kraft. He wants to win. And although a lot of people are very mad at him right now for botching a lot of those past candidates that he didn't get, those home run hires he was going for, the guy wants to win, and I think that I think he's going to try and do what it takes to bring a national championship to this program. But anyways, on the recruiting thing, don't worry because Matt Campbell's been shown to be a program builder. Did it at Iowa State, did it at Toledo. Now you have more resources than ever. See what he can cook up at Penn State. I'm excited. I'm excited to see it. Now, one thing about Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell again. He's very good at retaining good staff. He's had very good staff at Iowa State, not elite staff because it's hard to get elite staff at Iowa State. But he's developed his staff to look elite at that level. He's retained his defensive coordinator for like 10 years, I believe, or something, when there was a lot of talk about him taking other jobs as well. I think that Matt Campbell's going to come in and I think he's going to hire the right guys because I mean, I tell this to people all the time. I think that the staff that a head coach brings in is more important than who the head coach is. If you have a great offensive coordinator who can go out there and dial up some plays and have a explosive offense that wins football games, good. Do the same on the defense side of the ball. All your head coach has to do is manage the game and just some other stuff. I mean, I played high school football, and I kind of see how these work. We got coached 99% of the time by these position coaches. I think that's a lot to do with these programs that a lot of people don't really. I mean, I know hardcore college football fans definitely know this. The outsiders don't really understand how much of an impact the offensive and defensive coordinators play on the game. So I think Matt Campbell's going to come in and bring in some guys. I would hope so. He's a guy who was NFL teams were after him. Multiple SEC programs were after him. He turned them down. Those programs and NFL teams were after him for a reason because he's a great head coach and he's been like that for a very long time. He was just very loyal to Iowa State. It's like this is not his first time being brought up in the head coaching searches. Not at all. Not at all. This is nothing new. He's been around for a while. Now, final thought, I think Penn State knocked it out of the park with this one. Now, I have been getting a lot of support from you Penn State fans, whoever's been watching. Those videos have been doing pretty good. So, if you did make it to the end of this video, sorry, I'm stuttering and I sound super stopped up. I'm still sick. I had the flu all last week. But anyways, yeah, anybody's feeling nice, drop a subscribe if you want to, drop a like. Just show some support because we're just trying to build this thing from the ground, see where we can go with it. But anyways, I think it's a slam dunk hire from Penn State. And we'll be doing some more coaching reactions for some other schools here soon. So I hope everyone has a good day, good night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Lots of good football on.